was a nasty kind of ending to it all. That was supposed to be a very glorious year, which it certainly was for a large portion of it. And Dillon Gabriel, if he can execute the offense, why not? We saw Joe Flacco punt a couple times with his arm.
Yep.
We saw some bad Joe Flacco, even though we had seen some great Joe Flacco for the Cleveland Browns a couple years back. Feels like a quarterback change was inevitable, and with how good their defense is, I don't think it's over for this Cleveland Browns team. If Dillon Gabriel can come in there and play some ball, why? Dillon Gabriel is his size, which is certainly not the size of other quarterbacks. Certainly Carson Wentz, who is very tall. I mean Carson is a
big boy,
large individual. But let's talk about Dillon Gabriel, and the only knock really is, can he see? Is he going to be able to handle it all? How about some big-time shots? We've seen undersized, and we're only saying undersized because in real life they're normal size. More athletic, more jacked than most people. On a football field, though, at that particular position with who you're standing behind and who is trying to tackle you, size seemingly can't.
Something's definitely off in Cleveland. The depth chart says Gabriel over Shedeur, but Pat McAfee hints there's more beneath the surface and fans are spiraling faster than a Browns turnover. Did he uncover locker room politics, front office pressure, or just glorious chaos masquerading as strategy? Whatever's happening, it's quickly becoming the most explosive quarterback saga since Baker Mayfield's farewell tour, and this time, the truth might not just match the rumors, it could blow them completely out of the dog pound.
What do you think about whenever it comes to handling this entire situation? This is a tough situation for a third-round draft pick who's trying to make his career, and then a guy that's drafted 2 rounds after him is obviously the topic of conversation all offseason, all training camp, even when he gets his start, topic of conversation. He has maintained kind of locked-in, laser-like focus. I love the way he has handled it. He obviously has a chance with his arm. What do you expect from him with the Browns? And has he always been this guy that is like the utmost professional, seemingly, here?
Yeah, I'm with you. I go back to anytime you're looking at a young quarterback, I personally look at how many reps he had as a collegiate quarterback.
Shedeur is way better than Dillon Gabriel. He just is. If Shedeur had started from the start, game 1 against Cincinnati at home, they would be the talk of the NFL right now because I look at the fourth quarter yesterday, they go 0 for 4 on third down because Dillon was playing not to lose. Don't throw it to them, don't put it on the ground. And he did a great job of that. But on one of those third downs, you have to try to make a play to win the football game. And trust me, no matter what Stefanski called, Shedeur would try to win the football game because it's how he was raised. You're going to make a play because you were born to make a play.
It all started with a smirk. McAfee leaned in, that trademark grin hinting he just heard from someone deep inside the Browns food chain, and then he dropped a bombshell that hit harder than a Myles Garrett helmet swing. Dillon Gabriel's starting role wasn't just about performance. Something deeper was brewing inside Berea's walls. Suddenly, the Browns front office looked rattled, like they'd just seen a ghost strolling through the hallway wearing a Colorado hoodie.
Because we want to see Shedeur, let's grade it fairly. That's all I'm saying.
I graded it fairly.
Like, you said I want him to play bad so Shedeur could get
I do, but some teachers might want this kid to do bad, but when he turned that test in, she just got to grade that.
I believe Shedeur's better as well, but if we're going to grade, stop grading with bias.
All right, grading without bias. QBR for the game. Dillon Gabriel was a 38 on
scale 0 to 100. Rookie after 3 days of practice.
QBR don't lie, man.
It doesn't lie.
Take the name off of it, bro. Just look at the numbers. The stats say the QBR.
Browns fans know dysfunction, it's practically part of the franchise DNA. But this situation? It's different. Dillon Gabriel, the quiet newcomer who was just supposed to compete, somehow leapfrogged straight into the QB1 spot. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders, the golden name who had fans buying jerseys before his first snap, got pushed aside like a rookie trying to sit at the veterans' poker table. The move didn't just raise eyebrows, it set off alarm bells all across Cleveland.
This guy was at UCF for a few years, then he went to Norman, played at Oklahoma, and then obviously finished it in Eugene. And the only reason I bring all that up is this guy's dealt with a lot of different circumstances and different kind of pressures, especially when he stepped up from UCF to Oklahoma. And so I think that really hardens a guy, you know, when you deal with the ups and downs of playing quarterback at some of these high-profile places and you have so many reps. You know, that's why I think Brock Purdy was able so quickly after a four-year starter at Iowa State to be able to step into the NFL and seed the game pretty quickly. And I think Dillon Gabriel reminds me of that. You know, he reminds me of a guy that had a ton of reps. You put him in that offense with Kevin Stefanski, who understands how to attack and how to be decisive.
When McAfee finally revealed what was really going on, it was like flipping the poker table upside down. According to his whispers and a source who apparently remembers everything, this wasn't about performance at all. It was politics. Comfort. A coaching staff clinging to safety over spark. Stefanski wanted predictability, not personality. And Shedeur? He had both, in full, unapologetic doses. The second McAfee dropped that nugget, the NFL world erupted. ESPN went into overdrive with graphics. Reddit threads mutated by the minute. Cleveland radio hosts sounded like they were reporting live from a disaster zone. Everyone wanted answers, but inside the Browns building, silence ruled. Behind closed doors, tension spiked. Teammates started quietly taking sides, not publicly, but in those subtle locker room ways where body language does the talking. Some gravitated toward Gabriel's calm consistency. Others rallied behind Shedeur's raw energy, the adrenaline jolt they believed the team desperately needed. One veteran even described the atmosphere as split like a high school cafeteria after a messy breakup. But McAfee's bombshell didn't end there. He hinted that the decision to start Gabriel wasn't even unanimous. A few assistants reportedly pushed hard for Shedeur, calling him the guy with it, that rare, electric confidence that can either win championships or burn everything down trying.
What do you want me to really say about Dillon Gabriel over the next 3.5 hours? Well, he was composed. Great. You know how he conducted himself? He conducted himself how a career backup should conduct himself, where you just hope that you're able to hold down the fort until the regular starter comes back. The problem is, we don't have a regular starter that comes back. Well, we do, but nobody wants to see him. So nobody wants that to happen. So here we have to hope that Dillon Gabriel, a guy who is certainly limited, a guy who's smart enough to probably be a coach in the NFL someday, has to go out there and conduct an offense. And we just little bit. And we have to hope that Quinshon Judkins is able to carry us into the end zone, and we don't have a holding call on it. Because we got two guys there who are again replacing another guy who had replaced another guy who just didn't.
But Stefanski, ever the cautious architect, wanted structure over sparks. He craved control, not chaos. Film room perfection, not media headlines. And that's exactly where things began to crumble. Because Cleveland fans? They don't do safe. They've seen safe. They've lived safe. Safe got them 6-11 and a decade's worth of heartbreak. So when McAfee dropped his revelation, it was like someone handed every Browns fan a megaphone and told them to let loose. Overnight, Cleveland turned into a debate arena. Talk shows called it preseason sabotage. Twitter renamed the team the Cleveland Politics. One furious fan even parked outside the facility with a sign reading, "Start the star, not the substitute." Suddenly, the city wasn't just questioning the choice, it was questioning the entire philosophy behind it. Inside the building, tension went from heavy to suffocating. Gabriel, to his credit, stayed composed, silent, focused, aware of the storm brewing around him. But every pass he threw felt like it carried the weight of the franchise's future. And Shedeur? He didn't need to speak. His calm, simmering presence said it all. He was waiting for his moment. Meanwhile, Stefanski's cool exterior began to crack. Practices grew tighter, film sessions longer. Every play call felt defensive, not strategic. He wasn't just coaching anymore, he was fighting to justify a decision the entire NFL was now dissecting.
Did Dillon Gabriel just lock up QB1 in Cleveland? In his first career start, he was 19 of 33, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And if the Vikings don't score here on their final drive under a minute to go, he likely leaves London with a win. But as good as those stats were, he was only 3 for 10 on passes 10 or more yards downfield. And the QBR of just 38 does leave a little to be desired, a lot of short passes. But this is a strong Vikings defense, and he was the first quarterback this year to have 2 passing touchdowns against them. But this Browns team does have a lot of other quarterback options. But what do you grade?
And that's when the real chaos kicked in. McAfee doubled down the next day, claiming the Browns front office wasn't unified at all. Ownership, he said, loved the idea of a Sanders era, the marketing, the buzz, the national spotlight. But Stefanski? He wasn't convinced. To him, Shedeur was a project, not a plug-and-play hero. So when Gabriel quietly impressed in a few private scrimmages, Stefanski saw an opening and took it. McAfee summed it up perfectly without saying it outright. This wasn't about performance. It was about control. And once that truth hit social media, Cleveland detonated. Analysts compared it to the old Baker versus Tyrod saga, but this time, the stakes were higher. Back then, Cleveland craved stability. Now, they craved excitement. And benching Shedeur felt like pulling the plug on the whole franchise. Then came game day. Gabriel jogged out to a mixed chorus of cheers and suspicion. Half the stadium backed him, the other half waited for a single misfire to unleash chaos. The man was playing under a spotlight so intense it could melt turf. And ironically, he didn't even play poorly, but every throw felt like a brief extension on a lease that could expire with his next incompletion.
I don't know what's more funny though. The guy yelling at him to the right or the dude to the left that just can't contain himself, that just wants to interrupt. And look, y'all got mad at me for saying it yesterday. Even people in Cleveland are saying it. He did okay. He managed the game. He got them just enough. The minute that he took a chance at the end of the game, he threw a pick. Got a second chance, and then he went short. Every pass he threw wasn't even over 5.5 yards. That's safe. That's okay. That's taking no chances and relying on everybody else to do their job. But what do you...
McAfee's reveal had shifted everything. This wasn't just a quarterback competition anymore, it was a referendum on who the Browns really were. Were they a bold, modern franchise ready to embrace flair, or the same cautious machine obsessed with looking competent without ever daring to take risks? As the game unfolded, the tension was visible. Cameras caught Shedeur pacing near the benches, arms crossed. Coaches huddled over headsets. Gabriel played each snap like it was a test he hadn't studied for. By halftime, Cleveland wasn't winning, but they weren't losing either. That gray zone was the worst place to be, just enough to justify Gabriel, not enough to quiet the Shedeur faithful. McAfee's comments hung over the stadium like thunderclouds. You could almost hear fans whisper, he was right. Something's off. After the game, chaos hit the microphones. Reporters swarmed. Every answer sounded rehearsed. Stefanski said process a dozen times. Gabriel dodged questions. Shedeur smiled politely, his silence saying more than words ever could. Back in the studio, McAfee's smirk said it all, the story was writing itself. Cleveland had returned to its trademark state, controlled chaos. And within 48 hours, the leaks began. Anonymous sources spoke of tension, frustration, and a locker room quietly tearing at the seams.
Yeah, I think there's always something to build on. No moral victories whatsoever, but I think regardless of result, week to week, there's a process, and more time you spend around anyone, you're going to get more continuity, and that's QB to receiver, that's QB to running back, that's us as a whole unit coming together really, and getting comfortable with our unit.
The defense, for their part, couldn't care less who started, they just wanted the offense to score before the fourth quarter for once. Classic Browns, equal parts comedy and tragedy. Meanwhile, Shedeur's camp stayed silent, which somehow made more noise than words ever could. No cryptic tweets. No interviews. Just quiet, relentless work. Soon, practice clips surfaced, Shedeur firing lasers, hitting tight windows, outshining Gabriel in every drill. And just like that, the narrative flipped again. Maybe this wasn't over. Maybe Cleveland had lit its own fuse. By week 2 of camp, the tension was thick enough to choke on. McAfee kept fanning the flames, not maliciously, just doing what he does best. Every mention of the Browns felt like tossing lighter fluid onto a bonfire. Fans started trusting his updates more than the team's official statements, because at least McAfee's version sounded real. Behind closed doors, though, Stefanski's grip was slipping. Reports suggested some assistants were growing restless. The locker room split was widening. A few coaches wanted to start Shedeur and move on. Others feared it would make Stefanski look weak. The word divide had started appearing in meetings, a word no franchise wants to hear before week 1, especially not in Cleveland, where drama never takes a day off.
I thought he played like you said. I thought he played a good game. The first thing I said, damn, he tiny.
Oh yeah, he's small. He's small.
I'm like, oh my goodness.
Like what, maybe Baker height?
No, hell no. He wish you, man, huh? They listed him at 5'11", so 5'10" and a quarter.
McAfee, as always, knew exactly what he was doing. He kept the story alive, just enough truth laced with sarcasm to keep the NFL glued to every word. And Cleveland? They walked right into it. Every defensive comment, every sidelong glance from a teammate became proof that the Browns were, once again, flying without a plan. Then came the breaking point. Week 2 of the preseason. Gabriel stumbled, his timing off, read slow, rhythm completely gone. The fans had seen enough. At first, the chants were scattered, faint. Shedeur. Shedeur, but soon, the sound rolled through the stadium like thunder. By the fourth quarter, the cameras zoomed in on Shedeur standing at the sideline, helmet on, expression calm but burning. It looked like he was watching a movie where he already knew how it ended. And in that moment, McAfee's theory started feeling less like commentary and more like prophecy. After the game, the press room felt like a courtroom. Stefanski tried to keep his composure, repeating phrases like quarterback evaluation and trusting the process, but the tension was obvious. Reporters pressed harder. The answers got shorter. And the fans? Their verdict was already in. Gabriel wasn't their guy. The next morning, McAfee went live again, flashing that knowing grin. He didn't need to name names or drop sources. His point was clear: in Cleveland, the truth never stays buried. It always leaks, through whispers, meltdowns, or chaos dressed up as strategy.
So Dillon Gabriel just made his first start against the Minnesota Vikings, and unfortunately he was unable to get a victory. Carson Wentz had an insane drive to win the game 21-17. But my thoughts on Gabriel in this game, I thought it's a very promising start. I'd probably give it like a B+, just because he didn't really put the ball in harm's way. Maybe one time there could have potentially been a pick, but it was a lot of quick, short passes, and I thought that for what the Browns had really asked him to do in this game, he looked really, really good against a really good Vikings defense that came in top 10, 9th best scoring defense, and Gabriel matched Joe Flacco's passing touchdowns.
By week 3, Cleveland looked transformed, energized, unpredictable, and finally fun. McAfee's name was everywhere. Half the city praised him, half wanted him silenced. But deep down, everyone knew he'd said what no one else would. The Browns didn't have a quarterback issue, they had an identity crisis. Gabriel was safety. Shedeur was risk. And in the NFL, playing it safe is the quickest path to losing big. As the dust settled and another chaotic season loomed, one truth stood above the rest: McAfee hadn't just exposed a secret, he'd exposed Cleveland. Messy, emotional, passionate, and forever walking the tightrope between greatness and collapse. Because in Cleveland, football isn't just a sport, it's theater. It's faith tangled with frustration, chaos disguised as hope. And thanks to McAfee's perfectly timed truth, the curtain got pulled back just far enough for everyone to see it: the madness, the beauty, and the beating heart of Cleveland football.